All right. Cool. We're live.
Great.
Very cool. All right. So we have a few people that are joining us right now. And I think that slowly, we're going to have more people come and join. So for everybody that is watching and is listening, welcome. And very excited to have you be here for this event today. I'd love for you to just pop into the live chat, let us know where you're coming from, and really feel free to use the chat as an opportunity to connect with other people and really just feel that sense of community, because I know all of us are locked away and we aren't able to experience what a live event is like. So hopefully we can try and replicate that as much as possible in this event today. So first, I would love to start and also so for those of you who aren't able to tune in right now, just keep in mind that it will be recorded. So let's just get started. So my name is Nadeya Hassan, and I'm the founder of Zaya, which is an online platform working to educate individuals on integrative and holistic approaches to supporting their mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being. And so one of my focuses is to really educate as well as help individuals who've been diagnosed or are experiencing mental health conditions as well as chronic and terminal illnesses with finding support, tools, community, and knowledge to really help them learn the modalities and holistic modalities outside of what we generally learn in our average doctor's office. And so one of the ways that I've been doing this is by running these virtual gatherings where I interview different experts in the fields of psychology and philosophy and science, and really getting them to share their expertise and their wisdom in the work that they do. And so today I have with me Dr. Clare Johnson. Clare was the first person in the world to do a PhD on lucid dreaming. She's the president and CEO of the International Association for the Study of Dreams. And she's also the author of several incredible dream books, including The Art of Lucid Dreaming and The Complete Book of Lucid Dreaming, which is actually a book that I ended up getting just before getting set up for this event. And honestly, this book is probably one of the most comprehensive guides that you can find on lucid dreaming. It's incredible. And so Clare has been a prolific lucid dreamer since the age of 3. And so she's here with us today to share her experience and her knowledge and all of her wisdom and, give us all the juicy goodness that comes with lucid dreaming. So Clare, I would love for you to just introduce yourself and let us know, how you got started and maybe like what your first lucid dreaming experience was and how that kind of really facilitated you into doing the work that you do now.
Okay, well, thank you, Nadia. It's lovely to be on the show with you, and very pleased to connect with everybody who's listening or watching. Yeah, so as you said, I had my first experience of lucidity in a dream when I was just 3 years old, and it was a dream where I was drowning in a beautiful turquoise swimming pool. Everything was great until I started to sink and panicked and started to drown. And at that point, in that moment of pure panic, I realized that I had a choice. Either I could stay in that dream and drown, or I could wake myself up. And so I chose to wake up, and I rolled over really violently in the water, so much so that my actual physical body fell out of bed, landed on the floor. And my mother came running upstairs to hear what the bump was. And I told her, I dreamed that I was drowning. And she said, okay, but don't worry, because that wasn't real. That was only a dream. And when she said that, that was very strange for me, because it had been so real. The color of that water, I can still see the color of that water today, and that feeling of drowning and panicking. So that kind of did something for me. It made me understand that there was this whole other world that parents just didn't classify as being real, even though it just felt so real for me. And that was a strange thing. And as I continued to grow up, I had loads of very vivid dreams, also nightmares, and wonderful lucid experiences where I would fly out of my bedroom at night and explore the garden, just fly around. And I knew these were very special dreams, or I didn't really know how to classify them either, of course. But I think they were either lucid dreams or out of body experiences at that point. And my family were really loving and caring, but they just weren't interested in any of that. It just wasn't on their radar. And so with the scary experiences, particularly, I just had to figure out how to deal with all the fear and try and get resources from somewhere and figure out what the rules were of these crazy dreams. And so that was kind of how my life was for a long time, having these two really vivid worlds, the waking world and the world of dreams. And as I got older, I went to university, and then I finally found out what lucid dreaming was. This is actually a scientifically proved phenomenon and so on. And I knew I have to study this, because it's just such an amazing other world, and there is so much potential there. There's potential for creativity, potential for exploring the nature of consciousness, potential for healing, self-discovery. And I knew, okay, this is going to be my life's work. And so I became the first person in the world to do a PhD on lucid dreaming as a creative tool. And I developed a technique during that time, which I developed for creativity. I call it lucid writing. But when I started to teach it in workshops internationally, I realized that it was actually a very powerful healing tool, because people were doing the technique with a dream they'd had or a recurring nightmare, and then saying to me afterwards, wow, I've just had this huge insight. I now understand why this has happened, why I'm having these nightmares. Or they say, I've experienced deep healing. Just in that session, I've reconnected with a part of myself again, and now I feel whole, things like this. And so I thought, well, I'm going to have to keep teaching this and develop further techniques, because this is just amazing to see how it can help people. And so I started to write my books and the rest of the story. Lots of books, and the most recent one is The Art of Transforming Nightmares, because so many people have really difficult nightmares. And also when we're in need of healing in our lives, when we've had past trauma or very difficult memories to deal with, or we've split off from a part of ourselves, the dreams show us that. And nightmares act as red flags. They say, hey, healing is needed right here. And so when we pay attention to the dreams and the nightmares, when we become lucid in them, we can move towards integration, understanding, and heal ourselves on very deep levels. So it's so worth paying attention to our dreams.
Yeah. So one thing that I always have I have this little debate in my mind all the time about what exactly is a dream. Is it some sort of partial reality? Is it something that is just like all these subconscious thoughts that are just being projected and into this other sort of, I don't know, alternate states? Or what do you believe a dream is?
Well, so most people would define dreams as being this vivid stream of imagery that we become immersed in while we are physiologically asleep. And this stream of imagery, sometimes it's very personal, so to do with our sort of our personal psychology, and other times it seems to come from a place beyond that, a place greater than that, something like what Carl Jung would refer to as being the collective unconscious, because there are archetypal images, or it's like a bigger story than our own personal story, and that comes through. And I think that a lot of people who go deeply into lucid dreaming then begin to understand that dreams are even deeper than that. They're not just about personal psychology or the collective unconscious. They also take us into different realms, in a sense. They connect us with the source of everything. And there are dreams, which I mentioned briefly to you before we went live, these dreams where all of the imagery falls away. So all of what I call the dream furniture, you know, the dream cars and the dream houses and the dream people, it falls away. And then the dream body falls away. And we find ourselves floating with full conscious awareness, fully lucid, floating in light, light of any color. It could be black light, it could be golden light, orange light. And when we're in this light, we then end up often having a non-dual experience. That means we experience total interconnected oneness, like the ego is just transcended. And when you experience that state in a lucid dream, it's just amazing. It's like reconnecting to the source. I call these states lucid light states. And I've come to believe that the lucid light is actually the baseline state of consciousness. So I don't think the baseline state of consciousness is waking physical reality, which is what we all assume it is. It's like, oh, well, that's the real thing. That's the real thing. But underlying that, and much deeper than that, are these states of luminosity and connection. And I think that's where all form and matter actually emerged from originally, and that's where we emerged from too, and what we've returned to when we die. And I love speaking to deep lucid dreamers about this, because they've all experienced this light, you know. And I often say to people, in any dream, move towards the light, because that's where the power is, that's where the healing is. So if you see the moon shining in a dream, move towards the moon. If you see light coming through the window, move towards the window. Go towards the light. And often this is when really very deep experiences happen in lucid dreams. Like someone told me recently that they went into a lucid dream. They really wanted to heal themselves from a difficult illness, and they didn't know how to do it. They just became lucid in the dream and just asked the dream, how do I heal? Please help me to heal. And then they noticed that their hands began to glow with this like golden light. And they were like, whoa, you know, what's happening here? And they put their hands on their body in the lucid dream to send that light to themselves just instinctively. And when they did that, the whole dream became flooded with light. And they had this intense transcendent experience of becoming a being of light. And yeah, stayed in that state for didn't know how long, a timeless experience, and woke up feeling really rejuvenated, and like also more than just rejuvenated and healed physically, but also connected to life, connected to something deep within themselves. And it tends to bring you this knowledge that you really belong in the universe. You know, the universe supports you. You are part of the universe. So it can bring you great joy in your life to experience these deeper states of consciousness.
Yeah. And when did lucid dreaming start to become or be used as a form of therapy? And also, I know in your book you speak a lot about the similarities between lucid dreaming and hypnotherapy. Could you talk a little bit about the intersection between those two, and also just when this started being used as therapy?
Yeah, so it's been happening kind of gradually in the West, I guess, probably since about the 70s. That's when books came out about lucid dreaming and its potential for healing and therapy. So I'm thinking specifically of Dr. Patricia Garfield's book, which is a classic in the field, called Creative Dreaming. And this talked as well about the fact that, you know, we all have this inner healer within us, and we can access this deep well of healing through becoming lucid in our dreams and actively seeking healing and making ourselves available for healing energy to come to us. So I would say since about the 70s, but also there was a lot of work done in the 90s to help people who had post-traumatic stress disorder and had many nightmares. So when you have nightmares, traumatic nightmares, they often repeat the initial trauma the actual nightmare, it takes you right back to the trauma, which makes it even more terrifying. And people don't see a way out of this because they think, well, you know, I can't change it because that is what actually happened in the past. And these nightmares just keep coming and I'm scared to sleep. And you know how it is when you start missing sleep, you can really become ill on every level, because sleep is so vital and so refreshing and so healing for us, physically, mentally, emotionally. So these people were having a very, very hard time with their post-traumatic stress disorder. And Dr. Barry Cracore developed a technique called imagery rehearsal therapy. And this involves, what you do is you write down the nightmare, but only you give it some sort of a different ending, or just change something in the narrative, in the nightmare story, so that you feel okay with it. And it sounds like child's play, right? You know, you can imagine these, Vietnam veterans sitting there and saying, you want me to write this as a story and change something? It's like, what's that going to do? But in fact, it can be quite incredible, because they write down this different ending or whatever change they want to make. And then every day they spend 15 minutes rereading the new dream story. And this kind of trains the brain. So the brain, it's like when you have a train and it goes off on a different track, you know, you have the point system, and you can train the brain so it's not just always going in that same nightmare direction, but it goes off in a different direction. Something else happens. And when we visualize strongly that something else happens, then often this will go into the dream state. And these veterans were finding that their terrible sort of post-traumatic memories were actually changing in the dream narrative, so that they weren't scary anymore, they weren't so horrifying, and they wouldn't wake up the veterans, so they could actually sleep through the night, and then you become healthier on every level. So I can give you one example of that. Was a veteran who continually had these dreams about his buddy being killed in action, because his buddy was killed in action. He was there and he held him in his arms as he died. But he used this imagery rehearsal therapy technique, and then combined it with lucid dreaming, because his therapist told him, hey, you can actually just do this in the dream as well, that you change the dream story. And so he became lucid in this nightmare, this recurring nightmare. And his buddy was there on the field and seemed to be dying. But he went to his buddy in the lucid dream and said, hey, buddy, the war is over. We can go home now. And his buddy got up and he was whole and healthy, and they walked off the field together. And and then for at least 2.5 years after that, that's when I heard the last report. He hadn't had those nightmares again. So it can heal us on a deep level when we engage with this imagery that we have in our unconscious. The unconscious is incredibly powerful. It has far more power than most of us give it credit to having. But we can talk to it, we can speak to it through images. And then once that understanding has taken place, the healing takes place on a deep level. And then things change. Our dreams transform, and our waking life transforms as well. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible that it has the capacity to really help someone with this sort of like complex PTSD and other conditions.
Yeah.
So I guess let's get into like the meat of it, right? So like, how do we actually trigger a lucid dreaming, trigger a lucid dreaming state? Because there's several steps to really be able to be in a full lucid dreaming state. And so what are those steps? And I guess the first one would be triggering a lucid dreaming to actually start happening.
Okay, yeah. So I would say the first core practice to begin is to have a dream journal. Write down your dreams, because we then connect with our dreams on a deep level. We write down our dreams. We're showing our dreaming mind, hey, I'm interested in you. I want to become lucid in my dreams. We're writing our dreams down, and then we can notice themes that we have, common themes in our dreams. So if you say to yourself, wow, I dream so often of my brother, then you say, okay, I can use that as a lucidity trigger. And you say to yourself, the next time I see my brother, I will recognize that I am dreaming. So we can use the themes that we have in our dreams to help us to get lucid. and foster that connection. It's also really good to create a specific dream goal, a lucid dream goal. So you say to yourself, it doesn't have to be some sort of really lofty, incredible thing like, you know, I want to experience total healing. If you're a complete beginner, then it's good to maybe start with another goal. Maybe it's just something simple like, in my next lucid dream, I want to hug a tree, something like that. Yeah. Whatever it is, but it has to be something that gets you excited, where you think, yeah, I'd really like to try doing that in a lucid dream. So we've got enthusiasm, we've got intention, and we have this goal. And it doesn't matter if we end up carrying out our dream goal or not. The purpose of the dream goal really is more to get us fired up with enthusiasm about becoming lucid. And it's good to really visualize it. As I said just now, the unconscious works with images. So when we imagine something, we vividly imagine ourselves lucid in the dream and going and hugging that tree or whatever it is that we want to do, fly to the moon, then it kind of feels real. It's like a form of rehearsal, and it sends a strong message to our dreaming mind. And then you can also incubate a lucid dream. So to incubate a dream simply means to ask for a dream. And you might want to carry out a little bit of a ritual around this, like write down on a postcard, I am lucid in my dreams tonight, or I want to have a lucid dream, and really put the postcard under your pillow and think about it before you sleep. And it also helps sometimes. What I often suggest people do is to take like a gemstone or a little pebble or something, a little stone, and to imbue it with your intention to become lucid in your dreams. So you say, right, this is my lucidity stone and it's going to help me. And then your task is to try and hold it all night while you sleep, which is possible. I mean, I've done it many times. If you're a very deep sleeper, you might just want to put it under your pillow and just get it after you've had about 4 or 5 hours of deep sleep, just grab it then. But you remind yourself, okay, I'm lucid in my dreams, and just really really send that message to your unconscious mind, okay? And also we can do reality checks. So it's very important, you know, it's not just about waking up in the dream. We want to raise our overall level of conscious awareness in our waking life. And so to do that, it's good to carry out these reality checks, but not in a mechanical way. Like, don't set your alarm and every hour, am I dreaming? No, of course I'm not dreaming, and just get on with what you're doing. It's not going to work, you know, and it's really boring as well to do that. So it's good to say, okay, every time I open a door today, I'm going to ask myself, am I dreaming? And you have to really ask, expecting that the answer is, yes, I'm dreaming. You know, ask yourself right now, how do I know I'm not dreaming right now? I mean, we usually are completely duped by the dream reality, right? You know, we look around in a dream, crazy things happen, a hippopotamus charges into the room, and we're just like, oh dear, hippopotamus, I better deal with this situation. Wake up, and we're like, why didn't I get lucid? It's like, that would never happen. So it's like most of the time we think we're awake. So we need to question our reality, and we need to ask ourselves, what state of consciousness am I in right now? And the reality checks that we can do in a dream to make sure that we are dreaming, and also in waking life when we're just practicing, is for example, you can hold your nose. Like if you close your mouth and pinch your nostrils, you can't breathe through them if you're awake. But if you do that when you're asleep, you can breathe through your nose still, because you haven't blocked your physical nose, you've just blocked the nose of your dream body. All right, so you can do the nose pinch test, or you can jump in the air and try and float, or just see if it takes you longer to kind of come back down to the ground again. Another good one is the hand flip. So if you spend some time while you're awake just really looking at your hand, like getting to know exactly what it looks like, because the interesting thing is, in the dream, often when we flip our hand quickly like that, the dreaming mind can't quite catch up, and so it'll all look funny, you know, it won't quite be able to reproduce it perfectly. Yeah. So if we do it when we're awake, it's going to look the same no matter how long we do it for. We do it for a whole hour, it'll still look the same. But in the dream, it will start to morph and change, or we might find it's turned into an animal's paw, or we've grown a sixth finger, or it's gone all furry or whatever. So it's good to do that. And just sort of practice, practice testing our reality, and link it to things, as I said, like every time I go through a door, or every time I see myself in the mirror, I will ask myself, am I dreaming right now? Or every time someone smiles at me, I'll ask if I'm dreaming. So link it to natural things that occur during the day. And it's a nice way of doing that. It's an organic way of connecting with your lucid awareness. And then there's loads of other things to consider as well, like the type of sleeper and dreamer you are. So when's the best time for you to become lucid? Deep sleepers, for example, may find the best thing to do is to try for lucidity during an afternoon nap. So not even worry about trying to get lucid at night, because often they have difficulties becoming lucid because they're out like a light and then that's it for the night. Or we could try getting up a little bit earlier, like an hour earlier, and doing some meditation for 5 or 10 minutes, and then going back to sleep while thinking about a recent dream we had and imagining ourselves becoming lucid in it. Again, that's a rehearsal technique. It's showing the brain, hey, this is what can happen. It's possible for me to become lucid in my dreams. Yeah. So all sorts of ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a magic number to how many times you have to have these sort of reality checks in order for you to actually be able to start entering into a lucid state? Like for me personally, I told you this before, it's very difficult for me to enter into a lucid state. And I've practiced here and there, but like, should I be practicing every day? Like, should I be practicing having these reality checks 5 times a day in order for it to really have some sort of benefit for me to really see something happen?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always reluctant to kind of name a number because I think everyone's different. And I think when you start naming numbers, then people are going to start beating themselves up if they haven't done it 5 times today, or, and it's like, I think the important thing is generally to have this focus on waking up more in life. And so one thing I recommend to people as well is notice beauty. There's so much beauty in the world. Go out into nature and pick up a leaf and look at it. It's just so beautiful, perfect. Or look at the smile on a child's face when you see them, going by in their pushchair on the street. Or, just notice the beauty of the sky and use those moments to raise your conscious awareness that you're more in the moment. Because so often in life, we're so busy, we're not really lucid. It's like we're just thinking about, right, I'm doing this now, and then I've got to do this, and this, and then, and we're constantly in the future. We're not in the present. It's really good to slow down and take a deep breath and just be in the present moment. Allow that lucidity, that awareness to grow. It's very valuable. So there's no set number. And I think there are so many different techniques for lucid dreaming, and I would have to talk to you more, Nadeya, to find out like the kind of sleeper and dreamer that you are and so on. But there's one thing which works really nicely, which is yoga nidra, which is it's like deep meditation, but lying down. You can enter very deep states. You can do this as part of an afternoon nap. And it's wonderful. You start to float on the cusp of sleep, and you see the hypnagogic imagery, which are the pre-sleep images and sensations. And you can float on those for a while, and then you can actually allow that to build up into a dream and enter the dream fully conscious. And this is it's a very powerful technique for lucid dreaming. I'm teaching classes on it at the moment and having some good results. Some people have had their first ever lucid dreams from using this technique. So yeah, there are so many different directions that you could go in. Lots to discover. Yeah.
Wow. So let's speak to psychological healing. So healing from fears and anxieties and phobias. I know that in your book that you wrote about your experience with your baby, and when your baby, when she was in her crib and you thought that she almost died, and so you had to resuscitate her and bring her back to life, but then you were able to work through that was a very traumatic event for you, but you were able to work through that trauma through your dreams to basically heal from it. Could you talk about your experience with that, and then maybe go into how we're able to heal psychologically through lucid dreaming?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so that was a very stressful situation for me and my husband, obviously, because we were very worried about her. After that incident, we were worried that it just might happen again in her sleep, and that we wouldn't get there in time. And babies, they sleep for like 16 hours a day, so there was a lot of time to be kind of like trying to observe her and make sure she was okay. And I started to have these recurring nightmares where I would find a baby dead in her cot and I would scream. And that would be the nightmare. And so I decided, okay, I'm gonna get lucid the next time this nightmare comes. And I didn't have any kind of plan of action. Normally perhaps I would have gone for kind of an integrative thing of like talking about it or asking questions. But in fact, what happened in the dream was unexpected. So I became lucid screaming in one of these nightmares with this dead baby. And then suddenly I realized I was lucid. As soon as I realized that I was lucid, I saw that it didn't look anything like a real baby. It was like it was like a kind of plastic doll. It was like it wouldn't have fooled anyone. It just looked nothing like a baby. And that suddenly made me really angry with my dreaming mind. I was like, no, I'm not having this. I said, I refuse to have this kind of imagery in my dreams anymore. I said, I am lucid and I know my baby is alive. And then I threw the plastic doll down and it dissolved into the floorboards. And the moment it dissolved, all my anger and pain just kind of dissolved. And then I found myself vibrating with this amazing like rainbow light that went through my whole body. And I felt like my dreaming mind was right there with me, like we were in total pure contact, and that it understood. And there was just, I don't know how to explain it. It was just so beautiful. It was like a kind of buzzing yoga energy, and everything was wonderful. It was incredibly healing. And then I woke up, and I still had all that energy buzzing through my body. And that for me is one of the strongest signs of a lucid dream healing, is that you wake up and you feel it in your body. You feel it in the cells of your body. You feel it thrumming through your blood, that healing has taken place. And those nightmares never happened again. And my anxiety levels dropped, because I just suddenly felt like, yeah, actually, she's going to be all right. She's going to be all right. I just knew it, So that's one example of psychological healing. And there are many others. I mean, yeah, people have relationship problems, particularly if they've been left by somebody. It's like grief as well. It's not just that we're having a problematic relationship, but there's a lot of grief there. And they have found that it's very helpful to connect with that person in a lucid dream and talk to them, say what they wanted to say to them, for example, or ask their forgiveness, or receive an apology from them, that kind of thing. It can be very healing. And generally, lucid dreaming can really help us with grief, because often people report that they meet their loved ones, their deceased loved ones, in a lucid dream, and they're able to say to them that they love them, that they miss them, ask them how they are, have a hug, and it really feels, it's totally real. It feels surreal. You hug them, you can smell them and feel them in your arms. It's very beautiful. So that can help us to heal as well from the psychological distress of grief, of loss. So there are very, very many ways in which lucid dreaming can help us. And also, I mean, I've talked already quite a bit about trauma, past traumas, also abusive past relationships, can also be worked with in states of lucid dreaming. So yeah.
How long, I mean, does it take time to be able to go from, really learning how to enter into a lucid dreaming state to really being able to heal yourself in a lucid dreaming state? Like, does that take time, or is it something that is relatively easy to kind of jump into? Once you're in there, then you can, like the world is your oyster, basically.
Oh, that's a really good point. So one thing that often happens with beginner lucid dreamers is they try the techniques and then they get lucid in their dream and they're just like, oh, wow, I'm lucid in my dream. Fantastic. And then they just wake up. because they just got too excited. And then they're like, oh no, I keep getting lucid, but it's half a second because I'm just so excited, and then I wake up. So I always teach people how to stabilize their lucid dream. And I have a technique called the Clear technique, which is CLEAR. And it's just like, basically the first thing is to calm down. That's the most important thing. When you become lucid in the dream, you calm right down, calm your emotions down, because the lucid dream is a thought responsive environment. So if we're wildly excited, we're going to destabilize things often. We've got to set the groundwork first, make sure that the dream is stable. And you look around, engage with the dream, announce that you're dreaming, and recall your dream goals. So those are kind of the 5 basic steps of the Clear technique. But yeah, it's once you've stabilized the dream, then you can do your healing. Yeah. But if you're not used to lucid dreaming, you kind of may have to have a few lucid dreams first just to understand how to stabilize it. It can feel like a bit of a tightrope walk at first. But once you get used to it, once you've stabilized the dream, it's like this. It can be this easy. We don't even have to think about, how am I going to stay lucid? It's just like you and me right now, being conscious and having this conversation together. You don't have to think about stabilizing our reality, unless we have an internet problem, obviously. But yeah, generally, once you can stabilize the dream, then you can do anything. You can create a healing environment. That's a very nice way of healing in a lucid dream. Like say, okay, when I turn around, there will be a healing garden, or there will be a healing pool, and I will dive into the healing pool. Or you could summon a dream doctor or a healer to come and help you heal, particularly. Or you can ask questions. Why do I have this illness? Does this illness symbolize, is there some sort of symbol or message here for me? And I mean, there's so many other ways. You can also send love and light to yourself to heal yourself. That's very effective healing technique in the dream.
And is it better to think about the way that you'll heal yourself through the dream while you're in a waking state? Or is
Absolutely. Yeah.
It is, yeah. To kind of set that scene up.
Yeah, like I said, it's like using these visualizations, these images, that really kind of helps our unconscious to understand what our intentions are. So it's very wise to practice, like mentally rehearse the lucid dream healing. And I always say, doesn't matter if the actual lucid dream healing follows the same lines or not. It's really not important. The important thing is to set this intention, set it with images in your mind. Imagine yourself healing yourself successfully in the lucid dream and feeling really grateful afterwards and feeling alive and healed and all this. Bring all that in and think about that as much as you can. And that makes it easier. Yeah.
Wow. So what about lucid dreaming with physical pain and illness? I was really drawn to your story about how you were having a fibroid and you were able to shrink the fibroid, not just through lucid dreaming, but there were also a few other techniques that you were using to work on yourself in lucid dreaming.
Right. Yeah, so it was a uterine fibroid, and it was at a time where I was thinking that I was gonna, I wanted to have a baby at some point, and then the doctors were like, oh, but if you get pregnant, then the estrogen will make the fibroid grow and all this, and so I decided to heal myself through lucid dreaming, and there were various things. So in meditation, I would send out healing thoughts and affirmations, but also what would happen in my lucid dream states, I would find myself floating in orange light, completely just floating in this light, surrounded by it. And I knew that the light was healing me. And that was really, really quite amazing. They happened spontaneously. Obviously, I had set the intention to heal. But as we just said, I'd never kind of thought, right, and then I'll be floating in orange light, none of that. So I'd had this intent to heal and I had ideas of what to do. But what spontaneously happened were these orange light healings. And so what happened then was then I actually got pregnant, but amazingly, the fibroid didn't grow, even though there was loads of estrogen with being pregnant. And then it wasn't there at all. After the baby was born, it wasn't even there. So at some point, it just disappeared. Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, how does that work the same as with psychological healing as well, as like when you're working through these sort of physical illnesses that really exist in the body? Like, what is it that people can do to really start working through that in a lucid state?
Yeah, well, I think, psychologically and physically, we're very much connected, right? There's this very strong mind-body connection. The dream actions do have physical effects on the body. And we've seen this in neuroscientific experiments. There have been experiments on fist clenching. So you ask a subject to clench their fist while awake, and you observe the brain activity. You ask them to clench it in their imagination while awake without actually clenching it. And then they got lucid dreamers to do it too. And they found that the same part of the brain, the sensory motor cortex, lit up when the subjects did this in a lucid dream as when they were awake. So that's just one very plain example of how what we do in a dream can affect the brain activity and affect the body.
Wow.
And there's all sorts of other things. I mean, there've been a great deal of experiments into how lucid dreamers can change their physiology. They can speed up their respiration or their heart rate, things like that. So we do see that there is this connection, and anyone who's woken up from a nightmare sweating and shaking with their heart going crazy knows that there's this very strong connection between the mind and the body, because we've had a real fear experience in the nightmare, and it's gone straight through into our body the way it would if it had happened in the waking state. So if you want to heal yourself in a lucid dream, there are various ways of doing that. You've already mentioned visualizing in advance how you want to heal yourself, very important. And then you would stabilize the dream, as I mentioned, and then focus your healing intent in some way. Often people find, because we often have a dream body, you can use your hand to point to the part of your body where you have pain or illness, or to lay your hands on this. And trust your intuition, and be very open and flexible when you're in the dream state. So no rigid ideas of this has to happen and that has to happen. Because I sometimes hear from dreamers who want to call a particular doctor or healer into their dream, but sometimes that's just too complicated, or it doesn't happen, and then they kind of waste a nice lucid dream trying to find this doctor or healer, instead of just saying, okay, well, I open myself up to healing on every level, and just allowing the healing to come in whatever form the dream wants to provide it. So it's very important to be receptive, because our dreaming mind is incredibly creative, and it has, this natural healing power. So it will know what the best solution is for us, in a sense, and I mean, people have found things like spaceships have arrived and beamed healing light onto them, and that has had a change in their physical symptoms. So anything can happen. It's good to be open to that. Yeah.
Wow. And so with people who have reoccurring nightmares, because that's definitely a thing, I think we've all experienced that. I guess my first question is, like, why do we have reoccurring nightmares? And how do we deal with these reoccurring nightmares? I've had, in my personal experience, I've had this reoccurring nightmare of always being in my childhood home. And it's always dark at night, and something is chasing me, or something like negative is in the house with me. And I sort of enter into this lucid state always, but then I don't know, I freak out and then I wake up. And so this keeps happening to me. And I guess, how do we interpret this? Is it good to work with a dream therapist, or is there a way to work with this in a waking state?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what I do is, many of my techniques actually, I mean, I have a whole system called Lucid Dream Play, which is when we work with a dream in ways that mirror the possibilities of lucid dreaming, but while we're awake. So in the case of your recurring nightmare, if we did like a lucid writing exercise, for example, I would invite you to close your eyes and relax, and re-enter that dream knowing that you are safe and that you can stop the process at any time. And then I would invite you just to respond in any way you like within that reimagined dream. There were so many different responses. We could call for help, you could ask this scary presence a message, do you have a message for me? Why are you chasing me? That often results in something quite astonishing and very insightful. Or you could send love and light to this negative presence. You could have a protective shield of you. I often say to people, if you feel scared when you're re-entering a nightmare, or when you become lucid in a nightmare, you can create like an egg of protective light all around your body, like a kind of a shield of light that keeps you completely safe. And that helps you to relax and calm down. And when we relax and calm down, the dream itself tends to calm down, because it reacts to our thoughts, emotions, expectations, and intentions. So in the lucid writing, what you would do then is you would react differently to that nightmare. And perhaps you'd find that when you re-enter that nightmare without the fear, you realize that it's not something that's chasing you out of wickedness, out of trying to get you in some way, but something that just wants your attention. And often, I say that nightmares are they're like red flags saying something needs your healing. They're invitations to heal from our past and create positive action in the present. So you might find that you would turn around and face what was chasing you and discover, wow, it's really not that scary. It could be just like a younger version of yourself wanting some love, like wanting a big hug or something. Surprising things happen. And then in the lucid writing, you would just write without stopping. Once things start to change in the imagery, just write without stopping. And it can be really quite incredible what comes out as you write. You write without thinking or judging, just let it all come out. And people have found that they've had like loads of breakthroughs just by doing that. It's so simple. It takes like 5 minutes. And yet, because we have the answers within us, we can look at a nightmare and say, I don't know why I'm having that nightmare. No idea, but actually we do know, because it's part of us, that somewhere inside we do know, in the same place that we can always heal. We have that place of wisdom. We have that place of healing within us. So when we go into it and explore it, it comes out. And that's why we're astonished, but in fact, it just came from us, we knew it all the time, really. So it's well worth exploring your nightmares while you're awake, and just playing with them in this very creative inner space, without having all the fear and the worry that were present in the actual nightmare. Yeah, that can be very healing just within itself.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely incredible. I've noticed that, because I'm not able to enter into a lucid state, I'm starting to work more with my just normal, regular dreaming state. And when I start to realize I have this reoccurring theme happening in my nightmares, before I would just ignore it, I would just brush it to the side. So I think that, going to what you're speaking to right now, it's just like really important, whether you're in a lucid state or whether you're having a reoccurring dream in a normal dreaming state, is to always pay attention to that, to listen to that, and to work through that, because there definitely is a deeper message there. So I guess that's another question, is like, what advice do you have to people who aren't able to enter into lucid states? Like, how could they use a normal dreaming state to kind of heal, whether that's psychologically or physiologically?
So generally, you can work with the dream while awake, and there are very many ways of unwrapping a dream to find out what its message is for us. One really good way is called Gestalt therapy. And this was from, I think it was the 60s or so. This was Fritz Perls who came up with this method. And so it's when in the Gestalt therapy, everything in the dream is a part of you. That's how it's viewed. So every element of the dream is you. So the childhood home would be you. Whatever it is that's chasing you is a part of yourself. And of course, you, the dreamer running away, is also a part of yourself. And so you can go back and dialogue with these characters or these aspects of the dream, or speak with their voice. And again, writing is good in that sense as well. You say, okay, I'm going to become the evil cupboard in my dream and speak with the voice of this evil cupboard, and what comes out can be quite astonishing. So that's a very good way of working with your dreams, just to gain insight from them. And then there are the techniques, that I mentioned, like the lucid writing, and I also have the lucid imaging nightmare solution, where it's a similar kind of thing. You go back in, but you go back in perhaps with superpowers, for example, or you go back in and give whatever it is that's upsetting you in the dream, give it a gift. Like, just look in your pocket and get out something and see what it is that you end up giving them, or receiving a gift. And it's just like, there are so many options. We don't have to stay stuck. One woman came to me, and she'd had lots of abusive relationships, with violent abuse from her family life, and then later ended up in an abusive relationship. And so she was unsurprisingly having recurring nightmares about being chased by a threatening male figure. And she would hide in all sorts of places, but it always found her in the end. And just as it was about to kind of grab her, this threatening figure, she would wake up. And she was terrified to sleep. It was just far too much. It was horrendous for her. So we did like a brief lucid writing exercise, like a one-on-one therapy kind of session. And in that, she, for the very first time, she found the courage to turn around and face that threatening man as he was chasing her. And all she did was she just put out her hands like that and said, "Stop." She said, "You have no right to do this." And that was what she did. That was that empowering thing that she did. It changed things. And in her mind's eye, the guy was just like, and sort of went off. And she said, for her, that just felt incredibly necessary, to actually stand up for herself, because nobody had stood up for her when she was a little girl suffering this violence. And she had never really known how to stand up for herself, which is why she always ended up in these violent relationships. It's like we repeat the patterns that we know. But she'd actually managed to do that and just say, "Stop, that's enough." And that had a really big effect on her dream life. But more importantly, it had an effect on her waking life, because she knew, I am worth standing up for. I can change things. I don't have to be a helpless victim. I'm stepping into my power. So it can be really incredible what can happen when we work with dreams. We don't have to get lucid in our dreams in order to access the deep healing and wisdom of our dreaming mind.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. Like, what is it specifically about dreams that allows us to heal much like deeper? It really helps us get to the core, to the root of our subconsciousness, that maybe regular therapy, or even just what other techniques or modalities or practices or exercises that you're doing. Like, what is it specifically about the dream state that really allows us to tap into something that we're not able to in a waking state? What do you believe that is?
It's because the dream takes us so deeply into the unconscious. These images that we get in dreams, they arise from the unconscious. As I said before, kind of the personal unconscious, but also the collective unconscious. We tap into something very deep, and the unconscious is incredibly powerful. So when we listen to what's happening, dreams are like honest mirrors. They're not going to lie to us. They show us, this is how it is. This is what's happening. You think you're doing all right in your life. Actually, there's this great big wound in your life, and it's stopping you from reaching your fullest potential. So you need to look at that now. That's what they say to us, and we don't want to. We think, oh no, I'd rather just carry on. I don't want to face that nightmare or do this and that. But when we engage with them, it takes us to the heart of the problem. And because they're often quite symbolic, at first we just don't understand, why am I having this particular dream? I have no idea. And that's why it's so important to work with them, to unwrap them and just explore them on every level. Because then once we heal, once we listen to the dream, we can heal on the level of the unconscious. And that takes it through into not only our physical body and our psychological state, but also into our waking lives. So our lives actually begin to change in positive, beneficial ways when we do this deep dream work.
Wow, so powerful. So there's a few questions from everyone. Thank you so much, everybody who's said hello in the chat, and feel free to continue to ask questions. We have a few minutes left. So one question is, what about finding your natural voice or singing voice in lucid dreams?
No, that's a good question.
That's a good question.
Yeah, and I love singing in lucid dreams. It's incredible, and I recommend this for all sorts of reasons. When you sing in a lucid dream, even if you can't sing in waking life, you don't sing very well, you can sing in any voice in your lucid dreams, and the voice reverberates throughout the dream. It changes the energy of the dream. It's quite magical. I sometimes refer to it as being like releasing golden balls of light into the dream. It's just absolutely amazing, and it can take you to higher levels of well, it feels very spiritual. You can just sing and float and be in the dream. So the lucid dream is a perfect environment for finding your natural voice, and for finding that inner power that we all have, and releasing and expressing it. It's very empowering to sing in lucid dreams. So yeah, that's definitely something to explore.
I always find my singing voice in my dream is so much better.
Yeah, awesome singers. That's right.
Dancing as well, anything artistic, it's always better in my dream.
Right, and yoga as well. Like you can do any yoga pose perfectly in the lucid dream. I'm a yoga instructor, but I can't do all the poses completely perfectly. But in my dreams, I can, because you've got this flexible dream body. So it's wonderful to explore that. Yeah.
Another question is, can you explain a bit more about lucid writing?
Right. Okay. So the thing with lucid writing is that it fosters a connection between our conscious and our unconscious minds. So although we're consciously awake and aware, we're dealing with dream material, which is unconscious. And the lucid writing forms a bridge between the two. And when we enter, it's kind of like a light trance state. When I take people into lucid writing, first of all, I get them to close their eyes and relax, and I do like a whole visualization. And then I invite them to bring the dream that they want to work with into their mind and let it develop. And then they write without stopping once they're ready to write. So it's a whole kind of technique to help us bring lucidity to the dream that we didn't get lucid in the night, and it just fosters that connection. That was my PhD work, was very much to do with these trance states and how they can help us to access deep creativity through connecting like that with our dreams. Yeah.
Another question is sleep paralysis a dream state?
Yeah, so sleep paralysis is when you feel like you can't move, you feel like you're trapped in your body, and yet you're fully aware. It's actually a really great sort of gateway for lucid dreaming, because you have effortless lucidity in that state of sleep paralysis. And it is, it's certainly a type of dream state. It's one that we all enter every single night, but most of us don't notice because we've already lost consciousness. And what happens is we all experience paralysis while we sleep, or while we're in REM sleep, because this is like the body's natural defense mechanisms to make sure we don't act out our dreams and end up jumping out of bed or hitting our bed partner. So we all have this paralysis in REM sleep. It can be frightening to find yourself in sleep paralysis. But the important thing to do is really take a moment just to relax, take a deep breath. Remember that you are in a thought-responsive environment. So the more scared you get, the more scary sleep paralysis can feel. But the calmer you are and the more relaxed, the more things relax and calm down. And you can use that then as a springboard for a lucid dream by imagining an amazing scene that you'd like to step into, like, I don't know, lying on the beach or whatever it is. And then you can kind of just move into that scene or allow it to build up around you. So that can take you directly into a beautiful lucid dream. Yeah.
Why do you think that a lot of people see these sort of dark figures or these sort of negative entities staring back at them? I personally haven't ever experienced that in sleep paralysis, but a lot of people do see that. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think it's to do with the fact that we panic. A lot of the time we panic when we can't move, which is understandable. And then the panic, because it's a thought responsive environment, it kind of, what the dreaming mind does is it translates all of our fears or emotions into instant imagery. That's what dreams do as well. We co-create the dream. It's not just like the dream happens and we happen to step into it. We actually co-create it with our expectations, our thoughts, our fears. And that happens as well in sleep paralysis. If we're feeling a bit nervous, then we'll get this strange figure maybe coming towards us, and then we get even more upset, and then we struggle and try and escape but can't. I had so much sleep paralysis when I was about 20. I used to have it every night, and I had to figure out for myself how I could turn that experience into a lucid dream, and travel, go off somewhere and do something wonderful instead of feeling stuck. And I learned there's no point in struggling in sleep paralysis. It's just best to kind of seem to surrender, but keep that calmness. And then those figures just don't happen as much anymore. But it's all to do with the way that the body changes as we transition into sleep. There are all sorts of buzzing sensations or weird noises. It's a very peculiar state, but you just have to think, wow, I'm lucky that I'm lucid and I'm experiencing this. I'm falling asleep while remaining conscious. That's fantastic. I'm going to have a lucid dream now.
Yeah, that's a much more positive mindset to go into it with.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us get just scared and like totally freaked out when we start hearing all these noises and all these things. It can be very terrifying, but I think this is
sure. Yeah.
And then we have just one last question. Should you only do lucid dreaming when you have an issue or want to heal, or is it okay to do it every night just because you enjoy it?
Oh, of course, do it every night. Absolutely. Why not? It's such an enjoyable state of consciousness. It's certainly not just for healing. I think it's great to be able to have fun as well in lucid dreams. It doesn't always have to be for some sort of higher spiritual purpose or because of healing. So just, enjoy, and it enhances your life so much. I'm sure most people listening to this would have had at one point in their lives a dream where they wake up laughing from their dream. Have you ever had that? It's just such a beautiful feeling. And then it goes into your day. You wake up feeling like, I can tackle anything today. You've just got that power in you. And I think when we have lucid dreams that are fun and enjoyable, it impacts our psychology. Of course it does. You wake up and you feel like, I had a really good night. I had that fun dream. I flew around for ages, flew over the ocean or whatever, whatever you want to do. And that's, it allows you to bring more joy into your life. And anything that does that has got to be a good thing, right? So enjoy your lucid dreams.
Oh, that's so incredible. I can't wait to dream tonight.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can get into a lucid state. So I guess let's wrap it up then. I think that I could talk about this topic honestly for hours and hours with you. I think that
me too.
it's so interesting, and I think that there's so much more to explore, and I'm so curious about the future of lucid dreaming. And virtual reality is also something that you spoke about in your book, and how we can it's a very it almost replicates the lucid dreaming experience. So I would definitely recommend that to people if they kind of want to know what lucid dreaming's like, but you're not able to get there yet. So Claire, how can people find you? And also you're also offering workshops and courses, and your book is coming out. Could you please share that?
Sure, thank you. So I've got courses happening again from about the 12th of January, and they're transformative lucidity courses that run for 6 weeks. And I'm also doing yoga nidra for lucid dreaming. That's another course in January, which is really beautiful because it just takes you into these lucid dream simulations and gets you following the steps to become lucid in your dreams. And also deep lucid dreaming courses. So there are various workshops on, and they can be found on my website, which is deepluciddreaming.com. And the book that's coming out is about nightmares, the art of transforming nightmares, with loads of practices, how to do this, so that we don't have to suffer from bad dreams, but we realize that all dreams that seem to be bad are actually healing gifts. And so the book shows how we can unwrap these healing gifts.
And for those of you who weren't able to get her website link, it's actually in the description. So just scroll through the description. You'll be able to find the link to her website as well. So thank you so much, Claire. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Nadeya. That's lovely to talk to you and see your enthusiasm around lucid dreaming. And I hope you get lucid soon. And you can, you said from what you said, you're nearly lucid in those nightmares you have. You said your lucidity rises. So, tip it right over and see how to respond, see what happens. Could be interesting.
Yeah, I'm getting slowly. Thank you everybody for listening and for joining us and for talking in the chat and asking questions. I really appreciate, and I'm so grateful for you guys to just join in. And if you're interested in joining us in the next virtual gathering, there will be one on December 17th on healing emotional and physical distress through bioenergetics. And if you're not familiar with bioenergetics, it's a psychotherapeutic modality that basically combines work with the body and the mind with addressing conflicts cognitively, emotionally, and physically. And so we'll be having a bioenergetics practitioner, Matthias Rodriguez, and he will be basically guiding us towards how to work with the body, using body contact boundaries and grounding, and really understanding muscular tensions to help us heal from trauma, decreasing chronic pain, and really changing our mindset to something that's a little bit more positive. So if you're interested in registering for that, the link is also in the description below. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Our handle is Join Zaya, so it's JOINZAYA. And also, if you are a practitioner or a therapist listening in and you're located in Europe or the UK, if you go to our website, you can learn how to be a practitioner on our booking platform. So we'll be launching a booking platform very soon. So if you're interested in that, make sure to take a look on our website. Other than that, thank you so much. And I'll see you at the next event. If not, have a great week.